Are you ready to alter your life? Because that's what's about to happen. If you're looking for a judgment-free zone where TMI doesn't exist, to have the conversations you're not supposed to have, and explore how to make small yet substantial, sustainable changes in your life to actually care for and empower yourself through physical and emotional fitness, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Alyssa Alter, MOMDON, the Amy Poehler of vaginas, author, speaker, coach, former Broadway performer, certified Pilates instructor, pelvic health expert, comedian, co-founder of postpartum.com, mom on the mend, and board certified doctor of nothing. I believe that if we put as much time, energy, and discipline on our insides as we do our outsides, we'll be unstoppable.
Well, fancy meeting you here. I am so excited to share so many things with you today. One of them being the episode, another one being that these podcast episodes are now available also on YouTube. So you can listen to them on all of the podcast platforms, even ones I didn't even know existed until I launched a podcast, and the person I worked with to help launch me, the person who had a clue about how to do this, told me about all these platforms. So the audio is available there, and now I am releasing the video on YouTube. So if you prefer watching us, you can do that over on YouTube. And for those of you who are watching or have watched, you know that I record this podcast from my bedroom closet. And a reminder, I live in Brooklyn, so that closet is tiny. I do that because there isn't an air conditioner or fan in there, which, I mean, it's a comfortable temperature, but I just mean for background noise. And all the clothing naturally helps keep the sound quality high. And if you are watching this episode right now, you will see that I am not in my closet. No, I'm sitting at my desk in my bedroom. You can see a little bit of my bed behind me. And it's nighttime. I am in my bathrobe. I did wash my hair. I did nothing with it. And I thought about, like, oh, I can't record this now because it's not just audio anymore. There's video. And then I thought, whatever. I don't know. Am I insane? Or I don't know. This kind of feels on brand. I don't. Done is better than perfect. What is perfect anyway? What I don't know what. I would love to hear from you. What am I communicating to you like this in my bathrobe? Which, I mean, maybe I'm communicating that I don't care, but I think we know that I do care. I care a lot. I care so much. Some could say too much, but I would argue it's the right amount to not enough. Because we have a lot of work to do in this world. So anyway, that is a fun fact. The podcast is now available on YouTube. You can see me record in my closet, or I don't know, maybe sometimes in my bathrobe. I am fully covered. This is not like a sexy bathrobe. Just to set expectations, if you're now like rushing to YouTube, it's like fully on brand as a mom. Okay, so now that important information is here, I cannot wait to share today's conversation with you. I love today's guest, Corina Crysler. Meeting, talking to, and collaborating with Corina Crysler. I don't know. I always feel like I want to say her whole name. Corina Crysler. It's so satisfying. I think my name is similar. Alyssa Alter. Corina Crysler. Anyway, meeting, talking to, and collaborating with Corina is a practice in knowing and trusting that there is so much going on beyond what our eyes can see. And I first connected with Corina in Blair Bandenhop's course, Your Wellness Brand. And you might remember Blair because she's one of my co-founders at Postpartum, and she's a guest on the show. She was also a guest on Myth of Motherhood. I love Blair and I love Corina. So anyway, it makes sense that I met Corina through Blair. And meeting Corina, connecting with her, I knew immediately we were going to be friends. She's fun and light, and she's deep and wise. She's a real yin-yang kind of person, which if you know me, you know I love that dynamic. And thankfully, the feeling was mutual, and we've been friends now for 2 years, and we've never met in person because she lives in Canada. Life is weird. Very weird. And not only did we become fast friends, but our friendship keeps growing. And I am excited to also share with you that we are officially collaborating. More details to come for sure, which will be sent out to my Substack subscribers, which another fun announcement. I'm on Substack. Guys, there's going to be a lot in the show notes. In terms of links you can click and things you can do. It's fine. It's fine. This is how I operate. But if you subscribe to the free weekly email, you will not miss any of the details about this upcoming collaboration, because I don't want you to miss out on this. It is it is so good. It's not like a 1 hour thing. It's not even like a 1 day workshop. No, this is a 2 day, no bullshit, no holds barred gathering of women reclaiming our divine wisdom. Because you know that I know that you know that we are powerful. We know things, and we've been taught and conditioned to disconnect from our instincts, our guts, our innate knowing in favor of patriarchal systems that benefit and support other people, not us, not women. And as much as I can, I love a flower crown. I'm not an idiot. They're beautiful. Now isn't the time for flower crowns and light breezes and dancing in the moonlight. The world is changing. Women all over the world are protesting for our rights, for our lives, for our autonomy, for our existence. It is time for us to take action, which feels huge, which is why Corina, myself, Blair Bandenhop, who I mentioned before, and the world-renowned author Kathleen McGowan are coming together for this 2-day gathering to remind you where you came from, why you're here, and what the fuck went wrong throughout history to rob us of our divine wisdom and how we get back to it. Sounds woo, right? And that's because there is woo. And take a breath, unclench your butt, because I'm also going to be there. And I help to balance the woo if it feels like too much, to get you grounded into your physical body via the pelvic floor and the brain-vagina connection. So we're going to ease into the woo in a way that will not leave you clenching your butt harder, but instead allow you to glide, ease into the fire of holy rage in order to advocate for yourself and all women to make shit happen. Because that's what we have to do. That's what we do. We make things happen. And that's what Corina does too. Corina's a transformational astrologer and feminine cosmology mentor who specializes in helping women heal and fully embody who they are by using the wisdom of the cosmos and the sacredness of the cosmic womb. Through group classes, moon ceremonies, and as a contributing writer to Well and Good, she uses astrology and ancient feminine practices to activate clarity of purpose, self-understanding, and personal power in her clients and community. Prior to this, Corina was a leading expert in nutracosmetics and natural health production formulation. She led a supplement company with global distribution and worked with some of the largest companies in the world. She is amazing. I will include the link in the show notes for you to check out her website. She also has a Substack, so you could subscribe to both of our Substacks and check her out on Instagram. All of that will be in the show notes. And seriously, buckle up because it's gonna be awesome. Hi, Corina.
Hi.
I am so happy to have you here on the show.
Me
It's
too.
literally a dream. Like, literally, since I launched Myth of Motherhood, I wanted to have you on my podcast. And now it's Alter Your Life, and here you are.
Here I am.
Here you are. It's divinely timed. It's perfect. And I cannot wait to talk to you and to share all of your wisdom and insight around women reclaiming their sexuality and sexual energy. And I would love to hear from you, through your work as an astrologer, what really drew you and brought you to this particular lens or facet of, viewing the female experience and approaching it?
Yeah, so it was a little unexpected, to be honest with you. As you know, it's never linear in terms of how we do things or how we develop our methodology at all. So when I started doing astrology readings, and just to kind of maybe step back for a moment, I have a very strong background in women's wellness and anti-aging and nutrition and Chinese medicine, all those things. So I was always very interested in the body and taking very good care of the body and the mind and the soul. But when I started doing astrology readings, what started happening was I began to have a lot of women that came to me that had a lot of sexual wounding, whether that was actual abuse or it was just shame or, no connection to their body whatsoever around pleasure. And it was sort of interesting because I could see this in their charts. So I wasn't trained to do it this way. This was sort of like something that I don't know if it was more intuitive or whatever, but now I can kind of sort of see some sort of patterns around this type of wounding, which was kind of scary at first because it's a topic that it's way too common. It's too common how many women were coming to me with these sort of issues. And then I began to just start asking, what does this mean? How can I help them with the information that I know? You've had astrology readings with me, so you know that I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I work with the subconscious. I work with the outer planets more. So, we interpret our soul memory, our past lives, and how the subconscious just really is held in the body. And for women, a lot of this information is held in the cosmic womb. So it is my own methodology, but I started noticing a synergy between the planets and certain points, like pressure points, almost like the chakra system, but points within the cosmic womb that had, similar characteristics. And then from then, and many, many, many hours of practicing and working with this methodology with women, I just sort of connected to this aspect.
That's incredible.
I believe, for women and men, we have, the cosmic womb for women is, starts at the clitoris, goes into the center of the womb. For a man, this would just be the sacral area of their body. But for women, I believe the soul resides in the womb. So just like, a lot of people think it's the heart. Well, I actually think it's the sacral area. So if you're into evolutionary astrology, you're really looking at somebody's soul. So I feel, if you don't connect to that part of the body, then you're missing a huge aspect of our personal evolution while we're here.
Of who we are, who we've been, and who we're meant to be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's incredible. I feel like I came to pelvic health and pelvic floor, like just focusing on that in a similar way, where it was through teaching people, I started seeing patterns. And when incorporating more focus on what was happening in the pelvis and more awareness around this, so many things fell into place, they aligned. And that is also when I would have clients who would start talking to me about sexual dysfunction, pelvic floor dysfunction, traumas, things would come up, and it reinforced that this really is our powerhouse, which in Pilates, I mean, that's your core, your center, right?
Yeah.
But this powerhouse of everything, and really, really reinforcing that intersection, that overlap, that integration of physical and emotional health and well-being and experience. Yeah. And I feel like when we met, we both, like, we knew we were meant to be friends very quickly, because we really saw eye to eye on this.
Yes. Yeah.
And and when you say sacral area, right, and you especially said that, for women starting in the clitoris and then ending like in the center of the womb, right? When you, just to like bring in some clinical terms, because why not, right? Like the uterus, like literal womb, or like pelvic bowl.
Literal,
which I guess is where our uterus is.
Yeah. The literal
womb.
I think it's important because a lot of women ask me, can I do this work if I've had a hysterectomy? I don't have a physical uterus anymore, and the work that I do is very energetic. So when we work with energy, if you've ever had a womb, then that energetic imprint is still there. So it's still important to know that, you have access still to these energetic centers.
I love that clarification. And so when you say for a male, it being in the sacral area, is it sort of the energetic space where a womb would have been, or would be if they were not without a womb?
Yes.
Now, I want to stay here for one moment, because something that's been rolling around in my brain, I think you'll appreciate, is, how there's like a whole thing about having big dick energy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I get that, because as women, there just are so many systems in place to disempower us that it's like, no, like, what would it feel like if you walked in the room and had like a dick in your pants? And I'm not saying we don't need to explore that, see what that feels like, try that on for size. But here's what I'm saying. I think part 2 of said movement is to invite the males to have big vagina energy.
1,000%.
Big, whatever, but just like have vagina energy. Right? So like that's this cosmic womb. It's like for the men in our lives, are like, I want to invite them to bring vagina cosmic womb energy into the room. What would it feel like to walk into the room with like a womb and a vagina? Like literally the portals, the roads, the centers of creating things.
It's creation. It's the divine. And that's why I feel this work is so important too. It's because, when you look back into ancient times, because I'm very much into Egyptian mythology and anything ancient I'm really interested in. And this was sacred sexuality was a practice that was initiated to connect to your divinity. We've really screwed sex up. No pun intended. When you start lathering sexuality with all this shame and pain and abuse, and of course, then we disassociate ourselves to this being something that is spiritual. And that was sort of a big key finding for me is so when I worked with a lot of women that had a lot of trauma or wounding, you know, pleasure or touching themselves or even like thinking about it was just like a no. And so I started reframing the idea of, okay, so if we can actually identify our sexuality as our divinity and make it a spiritual practice, then it brings it back to its original intent, like its original creative abilities, to its original like bliss, its original love, like what it was actually meant for instead of power. And
yeah,
allowing then you to connect to your own divine self, which is like your true map. But when we have all of these aspects of wounding or projections from, you know, society or people that we know, we start losing aspects of our true selves.
Absolutely. I mean, the explicit and implicit conditioning for us to disconnect from our bodies, to distrust our bodies, to be ashamed and disgusted and embarrassed by our bodies. I mean, it's like, when did that start? I don't know, because it was always there. Like, when was it? When was the time when it wasn't there? I mean, that was a long time ago. That was before I was born. Like a long time ago, like those ancient sacred practices. And that's why, you know, and we are in agreement with this, that for us, especially as women, to connect to our sexual body, like physical body, emotional body, spiritual body, in this sexual way, and finding pleasure, is how we start to detrain that conditioning and really connect to who we fully are, so that we can embody our full potential.
1000%. And it is a way for you to step into your power.
So tell me a little bit, you know, I know, okay, like I'm sure, like in Pilates, in astrology, there is no HIPAA agreement, but I am always respectful of everyone's privacy. And I would love to hear, like, from some of the women you've worked with, like the transformation that you've seen, that, you know, they started one place, and like, what does that, like, as we unlock this, like, what are the possibilities?
Yeah. So this can
besides
be,
like, because I know it extends outside of an orgasm.
Yeah. Orgasm to me is almost the last piece.
Yeah.
Although it's amazing, it's not something that it's not the goal. So so really, I've had an arrayment of different types of outcomes, and it really depends on the wounding. So when I first start working with someone, kind of the first thing we do is look at that. Where's the pain? Where is the hidden patterns that we repeat in our, you know, in our lives that kind of keep us in the same cycle? You know, where do we hold this in our body? Because where we hold it in our body is usually like creates the set point of what we think our potential is. So we got to find these things first. And I have my own methodology where, you know, we do like certain activations, and there's a lot of practices that for each gateway. But ultimately what I see is an unraveling of the projections that people think they are, to going to actually who they actually are, and claiming that. And what happens in the body, and you know this very well, especially with the pelvic floor, is our vulvas and vaginas tighten, right? Which causes a lot of problems, which causes painful sex, which causes like so many different things. And we're in that contractive state all the time, instead of, just sort of relaxing and allowing the flow of our energy to go through. So when we're in that contractive state all the time, of course, that stagnation of energy, of our sexual energy, sort of just sits there. So once you sort of start seeing why, you have that contractive state or that wounding or that stagnation, then you can start sort of opening it up to kind of allow the flow to happen. And I've worked with women that haven't been able to self-pleasure, period, that, like at all, they don't even want to think about it, then that eventually can. I've seen women that haven't even been able to put a tampon in because they're so contracted that will end, our sort of work together using a yoni egg. Even if it's not your thing, it's gonna, it has a great activation aspect to it.
Yeah.
I've had women
Absolutely.
that have,
and I mean, if you're going, go ahead.
Okay. I've seen women like leave terrible relationships. I've seen women become authors. I've seen women launch businesses. So it can be so transformative in so many different ways. It's basically opening you up to your power, your creative power.
I love the way you talked about the stagnation of the energy, the stagnation of the muscles. I talk so much about healthy muscles can fully contract and fully release. And on a physical level, in order for a physical body to function optimally and in a healthy, balanced way, we need access to our full range of motion. And that's the same thing with us as people. If I'm always controlling everything, that's not good. And also if I'm just passively letting life happen and not even engaging or trying to direct anything in my life and just kind of along for the ride, that's not good either. We need access to the full range of motion. We need the ability to touch on everything and everything in between in order to function optimally and have the full range of this experience, physically, energetically, spiritually, all of the Lees.
When you're an astrologer, you're working with the cosmos. So you're working with the energy of the universe. And it's really that simple.
So, for someone who is hearing this kind of approach for the first time and maybe feels a little bit intimidated to connect with their body, their sexuality, their creativity, the full potential of their range of motion, and how to connect that with the cosmos, with the universe. Like what would be your first stop on the train? What would be like your first like opening the door and inviting people in?
You have to get out of your mind and into your body. So one of the easiest ways to do this is for me, I would say the first thing to do is to start paying attention to the moon and the lunar cycles. So even if it's like new moon, full moon, start connecting to that, because it's on a cyclical level. It is very similar to the feminine makeup. We have very similar cycles, right? So start connecting to the moon. The moon is your subconscious. The moon is your emotional body. The moon is your intuition. The moon is this inner world that is waiting to be revealed. And if you even like on a daily level, like get a moon app, there's so many of them out there, and just literally write, okay, the moon is in Aries and it's first quarter. How do I feel? And this is for you. This isn't for anybody else. And literally write down how you feel. And you want to do this for a few moon cycles. So a moon cycle is around 29 days. So you want to do this for about 3 months, and then you can start seeing like actually how the lunar cycle affects you emotionally. And this is a way to really connect to that inner world that we are really in a society that, you know, it's such a mental game, right? But that disassociation from our subconscious is really, really damaging, because our subconscious is like ruling how we kind of put our value system in place and what we think we're worthy of, and you know, how we make decisions. So if we can kind of connect to our lunar selves, the sun is also very important to this, but we can't look at the moon without the relationship of the sun. They're together. They don't exist without each other. So that's usually the first step, because in my methodology, connecting with the sun and the moon is the first gateway. It's the first way to open up the cosmic womb. It's the way to call in your light, to understand this divine force within us that is us. It is us. It's not outside of us. It's in us. And it's just activating because it's light. So that would be the first step, I would say. If you're just trying to connect to your inner world, which is so powerful, and 80% of who you are, start looking towards the moon. The moon has been my muse for over 20 years. So, you know, it's a little bit of a passion of mine.
Just a little.
Just a little.
I love that advice. I don't think I had like I think she'll say this. But I really, really love that. You know, because everything you said is so inspiring, and thinking about really connecting to the cyclical nature of it, because I also think something that, you know, as someone who was on hormonal birth control for basically my whole life, right? Like I thought I had a monthly cycle, but it really wasn't until more recently that I was like, oh, wait, no, I don't. Yeah. Because the hormones are controlling that. So I'm also operating more like a male because it's consistent. Whereas connecting to what's called our infradian rhythm, like our monthly cycle, the luteal, the follicular, the ovulation, the menstruate. I said those out of order. I'm new here. Connecting to that, you know, which is connected to the moon, there's so much information in this, and like where your energy is at, how you're feeling, what it looks like, and finding those, I was going to say patterns, but I think rhythms, those cycles, right? And thinking in that way, that really, like, that, what a spectacular intro to connecting with your creation and sexual and cosmic womb, like, and yourself as a divinely powerful woman.
The lunar cycle is the creation cycle, in my opinion. You know, it's like we have this new phase, which is like, you know, it's like when we plant the seeds, then we have the lunar cycle move into the full, which is like, you know, the time of fertility. And then we have it when it comes back down to contraction. So it's like it's like birthing and then kind of dying, like all the time. So it's always, you always have the potential for creation if you really allow yourself to, you know, integrate your ways with the lunar cycle.
That was so beautifully said.
Thanks.
You always have the potential to create?
Always.
Like, damn, Corina. I gotta put that on a mug or a coaster or something.
Well, and when you tap into this inner world, you know,
wow.
It's really important to kind of just understand, like, really how multidimensional we actually are. Like this physical body is one piece of the puzzle, right? It's the structure. It's very much Saturn. Our body is very much Saturn, holding us here, protecting us here. But again, if you believe everything is energy, which I do, then, it's like, what frequency are you pulling towards you? And that's why the getting out of the mind is really important, like the mental mind and going into the subconscious mind or the second mind, connecting to the vagus nerve, which is something you probably do a lot with, which starts at the cervix, the vagus nerve ends at the cervix, the portal into, so many different realms. Mm-hmm. So the potential is whatever you make it.
For you listening, follow Corina. Get into her orbit. That was a good joke.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. We'll keep that one. I will include all the links in the show notes. But Corina, how can people best connect with you and stay in touch and learn more and be in your orbit? I did it again.
Definitely follow me. I do have a monthly subscription that keeps people up with all the cosmic updates plus the lunar cycle. And I obviously recommend an astrology reading if you want to go a little bit further to understand your map like really, really well. Because everything we talked about, we're designed all so differently. Like you have a lot of fire, I have a lot of water. We're going to interpret things or need things or express things very differently. So knowing your birth chart's important, whether it's me or someone else that you identify with. It's an important step.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and listening to the end of this episode. Look at you. You're someone who finishes what they start. I love that about you. And if you're picking up what I'm laying down, be sure to visit me over at alissaalter.com for more resources on how you can alter your life, like downloading the 5-minute meditation that I use to start my day with confidence and ease, all before getting out of bed. See you next week.